Okay, so you're thinking about an event in Seguin, Texas, right? And you're probably feeling a little overwhelmed by all the venue options.
Yeah, it can definitely feel like a lot, especially when you're just getting started.
Well, you're in the right place because in this deep dive, we're going to break it all down for you. Make choosing a venue easy and maybe even a little fun.
Exactly. We've got this awesome guide to Seguin meeting rooms. It's packed with all the info you need to make a great choice.
Yeah, this guide is like having a personal tour guide walking you through all the best spots in town.
So in this deep dive, we're going to distill all those key factors you got to consider when picking a venue.
Right, like what makes a venue really stand out. And of course, we'll showcase some of those standout options along the way.
By the end, you'll be ready to book the perfect spot with total confidence.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Um,
First things first, you got to think about the size of your event. This guide stresses how crucial capacity and layout are.
Absolutely. You don't want to cram everyone into a space that's too small, but a giant cavernous room can feel pretty awkward too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to have a brainstorming session where everyone's packed in like sardines. Not exactly conducive to creativity, right?
Right. And then on the other hand, a space that's way too big can make it hard to connect with people. It just feels weird.
This guide actually calls out Geronimo Oaks as a venue that gets it. They offer a bunch of different layouts so you can tailor the space to your event.
And they can handle up to 300 guests. So if you've got a big crowd, Geronimo Oaks could be a good option to check out.
Okay, so we've talked about capacity and layout.
Uh-huh.
Now, let's face the music and talk about budget, because those dollar signs can add up fast.
For sure. The guide mentions venues that range from a few $100 all the way up to thousands of dollars.
It's really cool, though, because it shows that Seguin has something for everyone, no matter what your budget looks like.
Exactly. You can find a great spot whether you're on a tight budget or you've got a little more wiggle room.
Speaking of wiggle room, you don't want your guests wiggling around trying to find the venue.
Yeah, location is super important,
Yeah.
especially if you have people coming from out of town.
You want them to be able to find the place easily, and you want it to be conveniently located near, hotels or restaurants or whatever else your guest might need.
Right, so easy access is key.
So we've got capacity, budget, location, all those practical things. Now let's get to the fun stuff, the extras that can really make your event special.
Because let's be honest, a meeting room is just a meeting room unless you add those special touches that make it memorable.
Exactly. And this guide dives into all those must-have amenities that modern events need, like strong Wi-Fi and top-notch AV equipment.
Yeah, they even mention West River House as a venue that's got all the tech essentials covered.
Because imagine giving a presentation and suddenly the Wi-Fi drops.
Yeah.
That's like a nightmare scenario.
Total buzzkill. But hey, let's move on to something more delicious, food.
Because a well-fed guest is a happy guest, am I right?
100%.
Yeah.
And the guide breaks down all the different catering options you can find in Seguin. Some venues have in-house chefs. Others let you bring in outside caterers.
They even give a shout out to Hollow Creek Ranch for their amazing food and drink options.
And then there's customization decor, seating arrangements, the whole vibe of the space.
The guide talks about the 1281 weddings and events as a venue that really gets this whole personalization thing.
They're all about helping you tailor the space to your vision.
Okay, so we've covered capacity, budget, location, and those awesome extras that can really make your event sing.
Now get ready, because next up we're diving into the venues themselves.
We're going to explore all those different venue personalities that Seguin has to offer.
From rustic charm to pure elegance, get ready to be inspired. All right, so we're back and ready to unlock some of those unique Seguin venues. Each one has its own personality, you know?
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me. What kind of venue personalities are we talking about here?
Well, the guide starts off by talking about Seguin's rustic side. Think wide open spaces, sprawling ranches, you know, that classic Texas charm.
Okay, I'm picturing a cowboy hat and some boots already.
Exactly. And they even suggest picturing a few longhorns just wandering around in the distance.
Okay, now that's a vibe.
Yeah.
What kind of events would really work well in a setting like that?
Well, they specifically mention Hollow Creek Ranch as a great example. They've got 150 acres of pure Texas beauty.
Yeah, we talked about their capacity earlier. But what about amenities? Do those ranch settings have all the modern stuff you need?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've got a great mix of indoor and outdoor spaces. So you can have that rustic charm without sacrificing any comfort.
That sounds pretty perfect. So you can have your barbecue feast under the stars and then head inside for a presentation with all the tech you need.
Exactly. It's the best of both worlds.
Okay, so we've got these amazing ranch settings. What other kind of venue personalities does Seguin have?
Well, if you're looking for something a little more intimate and cozy, The guide suggests checking out some of Seguin's restaurants.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's better than good food and good company?
Right. And they mention a spot called Sophie's Gast House. It's just a short drive from Seguin, and it's known for its really cool design and delicious food.
So if you're having a smaller gathering where you really want people to connect, Sophie's Guest House could be a great option.
And then if you need a venue that can handle a variety of event sizes and styles, the guide recommends looking at hotels.
Oh, yeah. Hotels are great because they have so many different spaces.
Exactly. You can have a small boardroom meeting or a huge ballroom gala all in the same place.
And they usually have everything you need already there, right?
Well,
Like Wi-Fi, AV equipment, catering.
exactly. It's super convenient. They actually highlight the Legendary Center as a standout hotel option. It's got a really well-equipped meeting space.
And it can hold up to 80 people. So it's a good size for a lot of different events.
Plus, it's got tables, chairs, even a full kitchen. Everything you need is right there.
Okay, so we've got rustic ranch settings, cozy restaurants, versatile hotels. It seems like Seguin has a venue for every style and every budget.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
There's so much variety to choose from, but now the question is, how do you actually narrow it down and pick the right one?
Well, that's where this guide really shines because it walks you through all the key factors you should consider.
Like we talked about capacity and layout, but they go even deeper into those topics.
Right, because capacity isn't just about squeezing everyone into a room.
It's about creating a comfortable atmosphere where people can move around and mingle and not feel cramped.
Exactly. And layout is all about matching the space to the purpose of your event.
Like if you're doing a training session, a classroom-style setup might be best. But if you're having a presentation, maybe you want theater-style seating.
And then if you want to encourage discussion and collaboration, round tables are a good option.
So it's all about being intentional with your layout.
Okay, what else should we be thinking about?
Well, budget is always a big one, and the guide gives some really practical advice on how to be budget savvy.
Like looking for venues that are upfront about their pricing, no hidden fees.
Right, and they even suggest considering hourly booking if you don't need the space for a whole day.
So you're not paying for time you're not using.
Exactly. Okay, so we've
Okay.
got capacity, layout, budget, all those practical things. Now, what about location?
Yeah, we talked about easy access, but the guide also mentions that some venues are closer to certain attractions or amenities.
So if your event has a specific theme or you want your guests to be able to easily explore certain areas of Seguin, that's something to keep in mind.
Right, like if you want people to be able to walk to restaurants or shops after the event, you might want a venue that's closer to downtown.
Exactly. So location can play a big role in the overall experience of your event.
Okay, so we've covered the practical stuff. Now let's get back to those special extras that can really make an event memorable. What does the guide have to say about amenities?
Well, they start by emphasizing the importance of technology. Having reliable Wi-Fi and good AV equipment is a must-have these days.
Yeah, we talked about the Wi-Fi nightmare earlier. You don't want to be in the middle of a presentation and suddenly everything goes dark.
But beyond technology, they also talk about considering the specific needs of your attendees.
Like if you need wheelchair accessibility or if you have guests with dietary restrictions.
Right. It's all about being inclusive and making sure everyone feels welcome and comfortable.
Okay, and then there's food, which is obviously very important.
Absolutely. The guide really encourages you to think about food as part of the overall event design.
Some venues have in-house catering, while others let you bring in outside vendors. So there's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, they even mention Hollow Creek Ranch again for their awesome food and drink options.
And then, of course, there's customization decor, seating arrangements, the whole ambiance of the space.
The guide talks about how some venues are like blank canvases. You can really make them your own.
They mention the 1281 weddings and events as a great example of a venue that embraces customization.
They're all about working with you to create the perfect atmosphere for your event.
Okay, so we've talked about rustic ranches, cozy restaurants, versatile hotels. It seems like Seguin really does have it all.
It does. But what about venues that offer a more immersive connection to nature? You know, Seguin's got some beautiful scenery.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Are there any venues that really take advantage of that?
You read my mind. The guide has a whole section on outdoor and scenic meeting room locations.
Okay, now we're talking.
And guess who they mention again? Hollow Creek Ranch. They highlight their 150 acres of stunning property, their rustic red barn, and their open-air pavilion.
So you can have your event surrounded by nature. That sounds amazing.
It does, right? And with a capacity of up to 300 guests, they can handle a pretty big crowd.
So whether it's a corporate retreat, a family reunion, or even a wedding, Hollow Creek Ranch seems like a really versatile option.
It does. And then if you're looking for something a little more luxurious, the guide suggests checking out the resorts and spas in the area.
Ooh, now that sounds nice. Imagine having a cocktail hour on a terrace overlooking a golf course or a spa.
Right. Talk about a relaxing atmosphere. And the guide emphasizes that a lot of these resorts offer customizable packages, so you can tailor the experience to your specific needs and budget.
Okay, so we've got rustic ranches, cozy restaurants, versatile hotels, nature immersive settings, and even luxurious escapes. Seguin really does have a venue personality to suit every taste.
It does, but I know what you're thinking.
Huh.
With so many great options, how do you actually choose?
Right. How do you go from all these possibilities to making that final decision?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in the final part of this deep dive. We're going to share some tips and strategies to help you narrow down your choices and pick the perfect Seguin venue for your next event.
Okay, so we're back and ready to make some decisions. It's time to go from venue enthusiast to venue expert.
Yes, exactly. We explored all the possibilities. Now it's time to choose the perfect spot for your event.
So let's recap those key factors that make a Seguin meeting room truly stand out. What are those make or break elements?
Well, first up, capacity. Remember, it's not just about cramming as many people in as possible.
Right. You don't want people feeling like they're stuck in a crowded subway car.
Exactly. You want people to be comfortable, to move around, to mingle, to have space to breathe.
So think about how people will be using the space, not just how many bodies you can fit in there.
And then, of course, there's layout, which is all about creating the right flow for your event.
Right. Like if you're having a presentation, you want everyone facing the speaker, not all jumbled up.
Exactly. So think about the purpose of your event and choose a layout that supports that.
Okay. And then there's the big one, budget. How do we make sure we're getting the most bang for our buck?
Well, the guide emphasizes transparency. Look for venues that are upfront about their pricing, no hidden fees.
Right, because those surprise charges can really throw off your budget.
And they also suggest considering hourly booking. If you don't need the space for a full day, why pay for it?
Smart thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got capacity, layout, budget. Now, what about location?
Location is all about convenience. Think about how easy it will be for your guests to get to the venue.
Right, no one wants to spend an hour circling the block looking for parking.
Exactly. So think about proximity to highways, parking options, and even public transportation if that's a factor.
And also consider what's nearby. Is the venue close to restaurants or shops or other things your guests might want to do?
Because sometimes you want to make the event a whole experience, not just a meeting in a box.
Okay, so we've covered the practical stuff. Now let's talk about those special touches that can really elevate an event. What about amenities?
Well, beyond the basics like Wi-Fi and AV equipment, the guide encourages you to think about the specific needs of your guests.
Like if you have someone in a wheelchair, you need to make sure the venue is accessible.
Exactly. Or if you have guests with dietary restrictions, you want to make sure the catering options can accommodate them.
It's all about being thoughtful and making sure everyone feels welcome and comfortable.
And then, of course, there's food.
Ah, yes, the fuel that keeps events running smoothly.
The guide suggests thinking about food as part of the overall event design.
Some venues have great in-house catering. Others let you bring in outside vendors. So you have options.
Exactly. And then there's the whole ambiance of the space. The decor, the setup, the overall vibe.
Some venues are like blank slates. You can really get creative and personalize the space.
While others have a more defined aesthetic. So it just depends what you're looking for.
Okay, so we've covered all the key factors: capacity, layout, budget, location, amenities, food, ambiance. I'm feeling overwhelmed again.
I know it's a lot, but the guide offers some great advice for making that final decision.
Okay, I'm all ears.
They say, go back to your original goals. What's the purpose of this event? What kind of experience do you want to create?
Okay, so start with a why.
Exactly. And then use that as a filter to narrow down your choices.
So if your goal is to have a super collaborative brainstorming session, you're probably not going to choose a venue with theater-style seating.
Right. It just wouldn't make sense. Once you've got your top contenders, the guide suggests reaching out to the venues directly.
Oh yeah, good idea. Ask them any questions you have, get a feel for their customer service.
Exactly, because that can tell you a lot about what it would be like to work with them.
And then finally, trust your gut.
Yeah, if you've done your research and a particular venue just feels right, go for it.
It's like finding the perfect pair of shoes. They just fit.
Exactly. So there you have it, all the tools you need to choose the perfect Seguin meeting room.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about everything from capacity to catering, from rustic ranches to luxurious escapes,
We've explored all the different venue personalities Seguin has to offer.
and we've given you the strategies to narrow down your choices and make a confident decision.
So go forth and plan that unforgettable event.
And remember, the perfect venue is out there waiting for you. Happy planning.